Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this meeting. Everyone in attendance here in the room and everybody in Zoom, thank you so much for making the time. It's truly an honor to welcome you to this important session. And before we begin, I want to take a moment on behalf of the entire Myers-JDC-Brookdale Institute to acknowledge someone whose legacy is deeply felt in this room and through our work. Marshall Weinberg, Zichrono Livracha, was not only a visionary philanthropist, he was a steadfast believer in the power of knowledge to change lives. Marshall understood that research is not abstract. It's a tool for justice, dignity, and for strengthening societies. His confidence in MJB, his belief in our mission, and his unwavering support over so many years helped shape the Institute into what it is today. We feel his absence deeply, and yet his values, curiosity, fierce commitment to Israel's most vulnerable continue to guide us. We dedicate today's conversation to his memory with enormous gratitude, respect, and love. Today, we turn to one of the most defining challenges Israel is facing in the aftermath of October 7th, the National Mental Health Challenge. Our purpose this morning is to build a shared, data-driven picture of the mental health challenges in Israel. Before we begin, I want to welcome three extraordinary leaders: Mr. Moshe Bar Siman-Tov, Director General of the Ministry of Health, who will frame the national picture from the highest policy vantage point. Dr. Gilad Budenheimer, Director of Mental Health Division at the Ministry of Health, is also with us. And Professor Yuval Neria, a global trauma expert and MJB's Senior Mental Health Advisor, will help us understand the human and historical dimensions of this moment. Yuval, thank you for joining us. It is now my honor to invite someone whose leadership has been absolutely central in navigating this moment. No one is closer to the national picture or more deeply invested in strengthening Israel's mental health system for the long term. Mr. Moshe Bar Siman-Tov, Director General of the Ministry of Health, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ori, and thank you everyone for coming. Thank you for the invitation to come and speak here. Thank you for all the work that we are doing together. Thank you for Michal as well, and congratulations for the new contract that we are going to sign in the next few days. And it was important for us, both for Gilad and me, to come today because we want you to know that the work that we are doing together is really impacting the day-to-day of the policy that we are shaping in Israel, especially in the two main topics that we defined as the most important one. The first one is mental health, that you are going to hear a lot about over the next few minutes and even more. And the second one is the medical workforce planning in Israel, which is, of course, in another days that are not after October 7 war time. It would have been the first most important issue, but since mental health is the first, so this is the second one. So I'll start by sharing some insights, some of our insights, my insights from the war and the state of the system in Israel, and maybe this slide would describe our day-to-day reality. I said that we are either dealing with the measles outbreak or a missile that goes on Soroka Medical Center. So it's in between the day-to-day, the routine challenges and the emergency challenges as well. And in between, we are trying to rehabilitate the Israeli society, the healthcare system, from the very long war that we have experienced, and is not over totally yet. As you all know, there is still one disease hostage that is in Gaza, and we're looking forward is returning to Israel. So as you can see here, we are dealing with we are dealing with the day-to-day challenges, aging population, growing morbidity, chronic morbidity rates. The population in Israel is growing, which is a great challenge in and of itself. Every 5 years, there is more million Israelis, which is a blessing, of course, but again, it takes a lot of planning in order to accommodate the growing needs. And again, since we are after the war, we are looking, of course, on mental health, but not just mental health, rehabilitation as well. And we believe that we always must be prepared for a probable, we hope not, another war, another military operation in Iran, another, I don't know, something that we haven't experienced yet and hope not to experience in the future. So if we go back 2 years and 2 months, just now it's 2 years and 2 months to October 7th. So as you all know, 6/29, the war probably started without really knowing what's going on in Israel. But the healthcare system, we are not declaring a war, but we declared a war 7:45 the same morning. So all the system was alerted. All the headquarters in the center, in the ministry, in the hospitals as well, they're all well fully deployed by all the staff needed. And as you know, I mean, I guess that you know that of course there was the events in the south, but we were highly alerted for a potential equivalent event in the north. So we needed to manage the two potential frontiers at the same time. And the reason that I'm showing you that it was 7:45 to show how quickly and promptly the system reacted to the emergency event. The main areas, yes, it's the right one. So the main areas that we had to deal with, again, along these 2 years and so, not just the day of October 7, but as you can see, more than 24,000 injuries that came to our hospitals. Most of them are soldiers. IDF is very proud of the fact that the mortality rate among injured soldiers is cut by half by IDF and by the healthcare system. The way that they did it is just to send the wounded soldier as quickly as possible to the general hospital, the civic hospitals. So it's it was a good cooperation between IDF and the Israeli healthcare system that contributed for at least 600 soldiers that their life were saved because of the new method of working together. So there was the hospitals, but there was also the community services. As you know, more than 120,000 Israeli were displaced in Israel. Some of them went to Eilat, some of them went to the Dead Sea. All these areas are lack of real medical services because there is in the day-to-day there is almost no population there. So the HMOs, the Kupot Cholim, the sick funds in Israel, within just a few days, they build clinics, primary clinics, and later on even MRI or whatever needed for the population to get the medical services that they needed. We'll talk later on about the mental services, but again, there was some other activities that we needed to do very, very quickly. There was the forensic center in Israel, the identification process was the most complex one that we ever experienced. It's something that worth talking about separately, but the way that they needed to work was something that they needed to invent. We had to, again, unprecedentedly declare hostages that are not alive without any physical forensic evidence. This is something that we never did before, but we had to do it during the war. And of course, we had the privilege to welcome the hostages that came back from Hamas captivity. They came back to the healthcare system, to the hospitals, and later on to the community services in Israel. So if we get to the mental healthcare system, and you will hear more from my friends later, we understand again that it's going to be something totally different, and we need to reinvent mental health services in Israel, since it's something that we didn't experience before, since it's something that touches every Israeli, every citizen in Israel, whether he was exposed directly to the event, or maybe exposed by a family member or a friend, or even not exposed as well. It touches everyone in Israel, and it shaped the basic sense of security of all of us. I know that I can tell you about my kids that after October 7th, they were planning where they are going to hide if a terrorist would come to Jerusalem and come to our house. And it's not a regular story. There are thousands of stories like that, and we really felt that everything now can happen, and it's something, of course, that impacts our collective mental health. And again, it takes a robust response, not just let's add some more services. So the methodology that we worked with was trying to identify the circles where we need to intervene, and the means that we need to intervene with. So if we take the inner circle, is regarding mainly to the people that was exposed directly, if they lived around the Gaza envelope or up in the north and were displaced, or first responders, etc., mainly by resilience centers, which is very important and crucial infrastructure that we already had before the war. I'll get to it later. We doubled it 5-fold relatively to before the war. In some areas like Eshkol, it's a center, it's a district in Gaza envelope, it was 10 times bigger than it was before the war. Of course, we had the mental health clinics and the mental health hospitals. We'll get to it later, to the initiative of, again, sending all the hospital staff to the evacuees centers and the hospital to respond to their needs as quickly as possible and as directly as possible. And then there is, to the mass population, there is the primary, there is of course the mental health services, but we also involving the primary care in Israel, because we want the family physicians and the pediatricians to take part in the mental health effort as well. So we developed some services, some new services around it. But we understand that healthcare couldn't satisfy all the needs that mental health needs in this specific time. So we collaborated with other ministries and local authorities as well, whether it's the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Welfare, again, local authorities, etc. They are all taking part within their capacity of helping us deal with this national initiative. And there is something that we call healthcare beyond healthcare and beyond government and beyond public services. It's within each and every community. We all can do something in order to help someone who is in a need. And if we guide, if we give the guidance, the right guidance to the right people, we can maybe improve the mental health situation. So if you go to the, again, to the closed circle, as you can see the figures here, I was talking about doubling in more than 5 times double and even 10 times double the volume of services in the Resilience Center. And you can see the figure. We relatively, again, increase the number of mental health contacts within the population very fast, or as fast as possible, mainly through the Resilience Center, but not just through the Resilience Center. As I mentioned earlier, under the leadership of Gilad, all the 11 mental health medical centers in Israel sent staff to the evacuees centers in Eilat, in Dead Sea, in Jerusalem, or Tel Aviv, to give the responses as quick and promptly and close as possible, to reach out for the families, to reach out for the individual, for kids, whoever was in a need. And you can see the numbers. You can see the numbers here. And you can see the numbers here as well. Again, we have to be as flexible as possible. So there is the Resilience Center. There is the classic psychotherapy sessions as well. But we developed new methods with the HMO that everyone could call them, of course, free, and get up to 3 sessions of teletherapy, maybe. We could call it this way, and it was very efficient as well. So we are trying to see whether we are in the right direction or not. I'm not sure that this is the slide where you get the answer, but we are measuring many indicators in order to see the general state of health of the Israeli population, the general state of mental health in Israel. And we see, of course, increase in many indicators, but we see that some of them are going back to normal. This one yet didn't, but again, we hope that we will see an improvement relatively soon. Of course, that all these initiatives are taking lots of funds. So we are investing over a course of 5 years, that we are now at the end of the second year, over $2.5 billion US dollars. It's going to stay like this permanently. We are not going to cut it back. We thought that this is our duty. I don't like to use the word opportunity regarding October 7th, but this is our duty to build a mental health robust and stable and accessible system for years, not just for the specific aftermath of October 7. We also expand again clinical services, home care, stabilization houses. Maybe some of you know it in the term of soteria or crisis homes. It's a service that I think more than 5 times bigger now than it was before the war. There is, so far, I think that there is more than 1,100 new interns in psychology that we recruited in the public system. And again, we are doing many efforts in many directions. And one of the things that we know, and again, it's getting back to you and to the collaboration that we have with you. We know that we need to adjust, to modify, to change the way that we work over the course of time. Many of the new initiatives are new initiatives in Israel, and we're not sure that we are doing the right thing. But again, if we do it with the proper research, with the proper follow-up, we can fix, we can modify, we can change, we can do whatever we need in order to make sure that we are doing the right thing. My first part would be something that helps to my resilience, some images from these 2 years that, of course, related to the healthcare system, and I'd like to share them with you. It looks like a regular image that you can find and take in every emergency department or a trauma center all around the world, but this specific picture was taken in Israel, in the Galilee Medical Center up in the northern area of Israel. This hospital specifically spent around 18 months below underground because of the fear of missiles. And this picture was taken, I think, 3 or 4 days after October 7th. I went to the hospital again to make sure that they have what they need in order to be ready to any development in the northern frontier. And a wounded soldier came to the trauma center, and all these stuff went on him as soon as possible. And what you can see here is not unique to this specific medical center. It's unique to every part of the Israeli healthcare system. You can't see, but I can tell you that there are Jews, Muslims, Druze, from any ethnicity, new immigrants, and they are all working together to save lives. And I think this is one of, first, it's touching and it's moving and it's exciting to see it. But again, it's something of that makes our system so unique, because we have such a big mission to be focused on that all the differences between us are not relevant. This picture was taken a few months later in Soroka Medical Center, again in the southern district of Israel. Soroka received the highest number of wounded soldiers, and the severity score was the highest as well. And I was in the hospital at the same time that this picture was taken. They told me that they are going to get about 4 or 5 injured soldiers in bad condition, that the helicopter is going to land in a few minutes. And the plan was that the helicopter, the soldiers will get down in Soroka, and the helicopter would go to Bet Dagan. It's another area in Israel. There is a veterinary hospital there, and they're going to take the dog. It's of course a canine unit, so they're gonna leave the soldiers there and take the dogs to Bet Dagan, to the veterinary hospital. But Soroka, they don't leave any wounded, I don't know, a dog or a person behind. They brought a veterinary to the hospital, to Soroka, in order the dog to be taken care of there. And the soldier was, the first question that he asked is, "Where is my dog?" And they told him, "Your dog is here." And this is the image. This is the image that you see here. The next one was taken during Rising Lion operation, Amkelavi. As we know, it was taken in Rambam Medical Center, again in Haifa, up in the north. And Rambam has a shielded capacity for 2,500 hospital beds. So 7 hospitals were got into Rambam Medical Center during this time. And again, in one of my visits, I saw this baby, these newborn babies, they were just born over the past 24 hours before this picture was taken, and it reminded us all about what we are doing and for what we are doing. And this is almost the last picture. And this is, I guess that all of you know, Eli Sharabi. Again, as we said, we had the privilege to welcome all the hostages that came back from captivity. We had the privilege not just to welcome them, but to hug them as well. And this is Alon Oel, also another hostages that came back, I think, during the last returning cycle. And the last thing is, again, to thank you, but remind me and remind everyone that what we saw is we are not the IDF. So we have in Israel, we have Tzav Shmone. Do you know what it is? That you can call someone to reserve units whenever you need. It's like a duty. You're getting this like warrant from IDF, and you have to go to the army, and they can position you wherever they like. They have the power, the legal power to do it. We don't have this power. But though we don't have this power, we saw, again, thousands of people that came back during October 7 and afterwards. They left their kids in an uncertainty. They didn't know what's going on, but they came every day to their, not job, but to their life mission in order to save lives. So it's my opportunity to thank them here as well. So thank you very much.
If anybody has questions, please raise your hand and I'll rotate you with the mic. This goes for the Zoom members as well.
Thank you very much. When everything first started, there was a concern that there weren't enough clinicians. So you've decided to create a program for new psychologists to address whatever issues. Also, there weren't safe places, and there were facilities like quiet rooms that were created as well in the meantime. Can you tell us more about all of those things?
Oh, okay. First, I show it. It was in one of the slides, but it's relevant. During these 2 years, we added 3,600 hospital beds, shielded hospital beds. But again, we founded the facility, and we founded the personnel in order to give the services to one who needed. We have now an initiative. Maybe Gilad can elaborate about it a little bit more. We formed 16 new clinics in Israel that are focused on trauma or trauma-related reactions. They are all shielded, right? All these, I hope so. All these clinics are shielded, and all of them are staffed with personnel. I think that again we have the ability to modify ourselves very quickly, to find spots that are shielded and to open clinics there, to recruit very quickly personnel, to train personnel quickly. It's not perfect. It's not that everyone get what they needed, but I hope that every citizen in Israel believe that the Israeli healthcare system and the mental health system is there for them.
I'm coming.
Thank you so much. Truly fascinating. I'm curious about a little bit what you just alluded to, which is the societal acceptance of mental health services. I don't want to stereotype, but perhaps, it is at least thought that Israeli society has we can do this alone. I'm strong, I can do this. So building the infrastructure, building the capability is one thing. Inviting the society in and breaking down those barriers is another. And I'm wondering if you could help us understand how you're accomplishing that.
I think that it's changing, and it's changing very fast. And I'm sure that, again, my friends could elaborate about it a little bit more, and Yuval could talk about the differences between his experience 52 years ago to what we see now. I think that even before October 7, the willingness to be treated mentally was changed, and the level of the stigma decreased. And we see people speak freely about their experience and their trauma. There is a very famous figure in Israel, and I encourage you to see his video about it. His name is Udi Kagan. He's a famous comedian, and he talks, again, for years in his show about his post-trauma experience, and he calls others to get treated properly and to get treated fast, and not to wait, I don't know, a decade or two like he did, or 50 years like other people did. It's not perfect. Again, there is still a stigma, but we are trying to find ways in order to bypass it. Either the resilience centers are not classified as mental health services, because I'm not going to see a psychologist, I'm going to a resilience center. It's much easier to send your kid there, and some of the activities there is like a group therapy, which is again, or activities with the dogs and pets and etc. So it's easier to get there. And we see even the conservative societies in Israel, like the Orthodox and the Arab communities. We have resilience center in the Bedouin settlements in the southern district in Israel, and they function very well. They are over with they have more work that they could do. So it means that there is a willingness to treat yourself mentally.
Firstly, on a personal note, there are no words to thank you for what you've done and what you stand for, and the example not only you give everybody, but other ministries as well. I'll leave it at that. It's come up, and it came up yesterday here, a lot about AI and how AI can relieve some of the pressures here, which you've sort of alluded to there. May I invite you to comment on how you see that developing as we go forward? And secondly, perhaps related, perhaps not, the role of volunteers, because that was a pleasant surprise in Israel. How many people, and again, you just alluded to that, dropped what they were doing and wanted to do what they can. But have you developed, from the immense organizational skills and experience, to harness that in perhaps a more official, effective manner than before?
Okay. First, thank you, Daniel. Regarding AI, of course, we can spend hours talking about AI. Some of the budget that allocated in the National Mental Health Initiative is very, let's say, flexible money that every HMO can spend on technology, digital services, digital triage, or whatever they want, or digital therapy. So I think about around more than a few millions are spent on this segment. I can tell you not just regarding healthcare that we have released, like I'm not sure what would be the right. It's not a tender, but it's something that we call upon the industry and the entrepreneurs and the staff wherever they are to offer us to design differently medical procedure or processes that we do with the human stuff, and we can do with the technology, AI, etc. And we tell them that we are willing to change the regulatory framework in order to advance these technologies. And again, within the mental health, we got special segment and allocation and staff that is working with the HMOs in order to promote innovation, in order, again, to extend the capacity of the system. I'm not sure that we saw something that is breakthrough yet, but again, we're investing in it, and we believe that maybe over the course of time, we'll see a change in this direction.
Let me ask you a question. There's no cure for post-traumatic stress disorder. there's treatment for trauma. Where are we going to be in 5 years from now with this whole population that doesn't have a cure?
So I don't have my crystal ball, but I think that Dr. Bodenheimer would be maybe more appropriate to give you the right answer. Gilad, you want to try?
So predicting what's going to happen in the future after such a trauma is challenging. But we do know that most of the people can go through trauma without developing post-traumatic stress disorder. We are very concerned about the small population that will have for ongoing years ahead post-traumatic stress disorder. And we're trying to identify the different populations that we need to intervene in order for them not to develop. But it's a big challenge, and we're indeed worried.
How big is that population?
It's very difficult to estimate. We assume that we'll have a few 10,000s of people with severe post-traumatic stress disorder. This is why we developed the system in a gradual way that can provide the needed therapy, especially in the 16 trauma centers that we opened.
That includes the people from the Nova Festival?
Of course.
Everyone.
We have special programs for the Nova survivors. We actually look at every community and every population that needs a specific concern, and we try to build what's right for them. So we work very closely with the Nova survivors, and it's challenging.
We have a question from Zoom, Max Morris.
Hi, this might be more for Yuval, I'm not sure, but this is not my idea, someone created or suggested the idea of group therapy for the country, as in like a national television show every week or something. Because as we know, when one person is affected, their entire ecosystem is affected. And it could be an efficient sort of countrywide effort. And I don't know if that's been considered or not, if that's even a good idea.
Yeah.
It's a good question because we're dealing with a collective trauma, and dealing with a collective trauma makes us need to think about how we react in a national way. We do not really have national therapy groups that we're able to facilitate, but we are thinking about how we can reach communities and how we can make programs and initiatives that go within municipalities and communities in order to create communities that can support communities. And that's a main goal that we're dealing with today. Also, of course, we're competing in the media because media causes trauma and media can also relieve from trauma. So that's another challenge we're in.
And we're encouraging, of course, group therapy as much as possible. Ori?
Ori, I sent you a question.
There is one more. We have time for one more question, and it's
Ori?
I'm so
You
sorry, from Zoom. Yeah, Leslie Dunn from Zoom will be the final question, but rest assured, send me all the questions. We have the recording. I'll organize everything, and everybody will get their question answered. So Leslie Dunn, and then we'll move forward.
The question that I sent to Ori, he could summarize it, is if you had to prioritize in magnitude of need and the urgency of the issues you've addressed, how might you do that? I know it's a little godlike to have to do that, but sometimes it helps to hear it from the person who stays up night thinking about it. And also, you mentioned the need for research on certain issues. Where do you put your priorities in that area?
Okay. Would you like to help me with the question?
What to deal with and how to use research.
Okay. How do we prioritize? Okay. So I said earlier that we decided that the response should be community-based and and primary clinics based and not hospital based as possible. So we believe that one of the key strengths of the Israeli healthcare system is the strength and the structure of the HMOs, what we call in Hebrew again, Kupot Cholim, sick funds. So we made them the main vehicle to supply the services in mental health. So we believe again, as community as possible, as primary as possible, as flexible as possible, and again, trying to give everyone what they need in order to leave capacity for the most severe cases to get the most, let's say, scarce resources, human resources that we have. I said it again together with you, with the Institute. We are following the system. We are following together with you, together with the HMOs, together with other stakeholders as well, in order to make sure that we are in the right direction, and we modify the plan on a regular basis. We thought that this response would be better, would be a good one, but there is not real use in it. So we take the resources and reallocate them to some other channels. So, but there is a tension between wanting to move fast and robust and wanting to be as accurate as possible. So we are trying again to optimize between these two goals. Ori. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess now I know the risk of inviting stellar speakers to your open forum. You have to refuse additional questions, just time constraints, but everything will be answered. It is my profound honor to introduce someone whose life story is not only extraordinary, it is woven into Israel's own narrative of courage, sacrifice, and resilience. Professor Yuval Neria was just 21 years old when the Yom Kippur War erupted. As a young tank commander in the Sinai, he fought for 12 relentless days in one of the war's most brutal battles. After his tank was hit, he began moving from one burning vehicle to the next, ultimately taking command of 10 different crews and refusing to leave the front lines until he was critically wounded and evacuated. For this extraordinary heroism, he was one of only 8 soldiers to receive the Medal of Valor, Israel's highest military decoration, 4 of whom returned home and 4 of whom fell on the battlefield. Yuval has said, "I left that war with a Medal of Valor, a serious injury, and a scarred soul." However, instead of turning away from that pain, he transformed it into a lifelong mission of research and service. Today, Professor Neria is a professor of clinical medical psychology at Columbia University and director of the Trauma and PTSD program at the New York State Psychiatric Institute. He is recognized globally as one of the world's leading experts on PTSD, a signature syndrome of trauma. Yuval has worked with Israeli veterans and POWs from the Yom Kippur War, the Lebanon War, 9/11, and young Israelis growing up under rocket fire. His groundbreaking research now uses advanced neuroscience to develop more precise, personalized treatments for PTSD in Israel and abroad. He has published more than 250 scientific papers, 5 textbooks, and 2 novels, which were influenced by his experiences. Despite these towering achievements, he speaks with extraordinary humility and deep concern. In the aftermath of October 7th and the prolonged war that followed, he has warned that Israel may face up to 1 million new cases of PTSD. In his words, Israel cannot heal unless we save these countless wounded souls. Professor Neria embodies something rare, the warrior who became the healer, a man who has devoted his life to helping others find a path out of trauma. He serves as a senior mental health advisor to MJB, where he guides the Institute's mental health studies and researchers. It is a true privilege to have him with us today. Please join me in welcoming Professor Neria.
This was too much, Ori. Anyway, thank you for being here. Thank you for Moshe and Gilad, who came all the way from Israel. Thank you for Michal for arranging my talk here. It's not the first time, by the way. I think last year we were here as well, but that's a more beautiful room indeed, right? Beautiful weather. So it will be a personal account rather than a research presentation. And it's go like this. Few days after the October 7 attack, I was able to catch a flight to Israel, joining colleagues and friends from Shalvata Mental Health Center, and with them arriving at the Yam Suf Hotel in Eilat. It was no longer a regular hotel. It had become a shelter, a big shelter filled with hundreds of evacuees, children, adults, elderly, people who were able to flee the horror of the Gaza envelope. The lobby was filled with noise, people shouting to each other, hugging each other, many crying. Others kept silent, sitting, shell-shocked, whispering, some of them praying. And I saw the social workers, the psychologists, the psychiatrists, who some I had trained over the years, some of the best in Israel, already there, pretty exhausted, doing everything they could. And I thought to myself, we are here again. Once again, war is upon us. And once again, people are suffering deeply. They are overwhelmed, and I'm needed. That moment took me instantly back 50 years to my first war, the 1973 Yom Kippur War. As already described, I was a young soldier then, barely 21 years old, deployed with my company in the Suez Canal. And we who observed the Egyptians' preparations for months knew already that something is coming. We just didn't know the scale and the timing. And it came on us, coordinated attack during the holy day of Yom Kippur, and it was pretty devastating. First, the chaos, the ultimate overwhelming failure to withstand the sheer force of the enemy, and then courage and altruism and creativity beyond words, and the massive trauma and loss that followed. When the war ended, I was not the same person anymore. None of us were. The war changed me. Understanding psychological trauma became my life mission or passion, actually. Back then, the concept of psychological trauma, PTSD, barely existed in Israel. It took another 10 years in the US until early 80s for a group of psychiatrists and psychologists in Boston to come up with the early 1980s DSM-3, I'm sure Gilad remembers or knows about it, with the first draft of the clinical definition of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. In Israel, the mental health system of the post-Yom Kippur War lacked a good recognition or understanding of PTSD and other trauma-related consequences. An example, even when about 300 POWs, Israeli POWs, released from horrific captivity in Syria and Egypt, where they were severely tortured and humiliated, almost nobody knew how to address the psychological needs when they came home. They were received poorly, critically, regarded as weak, and their psychological wounds were not addressed for many, many years. About 10 years later, the Lebanon War, I already served as an armored battalion commander, as a reservist studying psychology. When I studied psychology, as I said, in Hebrew University, I was able to start seeing the beginning of a change in Israel that kept really linearly until these days. Then people started to realize that trauma is not about those who were wounded only, or captured, or unable to continue fighting. Trauma may touch many, not everybody, though, the soldiers, their families, sometimes the entire communities. And then we began asking new questions. First, how to identify the consequences of trauma early, or early enough, I would say. How do you prevent trauma from destroying lives, families, decades later? And how do you build systems that make sure people don't fall through the cracks? These questions led my doctoral studies and launched my research career for years. In the early 2000s, my path took me to New York City, actually. I was recruited by Columbia Psychiatry, where I was offered to establish research and build a PTSD lab to study the aftermath of 9/11 and to develop new and better treatments for PTSD. 2 decades later, after years of research, we came to understand that while the experience of trauma is pretty universal, healing must be personal, precise, and evidence-based. The same event can affect 2 people completely different. One may recover quickly, another may struggle for years. If we want to help people truly heal, we must match the right treatment to the right people at the right time. That is what precision trauma care is. And back to October 7, Moshe described, very comprehensively, the effort to deal with its aftermath. October 7 was very different. It was very different from the Lebanon War. It was very different from the Yom Kippur War. In fact, I believe it was harder than the War of Independence itself. And many of you have visited Israel or live in Israel and know what October 7 felt like. The scale, first of all, the scale was vast. Entire communities destroyed, thousands of direct survivors, tens of thousands of evacuees, an entire nation, including children, far from the front lines, continue to live with fear, grief, guilt, and this is on top of the COVID crisis. What we were witnessing in the last 2 years is a psychological crisis that touches almost every corner of Israeli life. And yet, our mental health system had to rebuild, and you already heard how it's kind of rebuilding itself for something of this magnitude, because Israel has world-class professionals, clinicians, researchers, really good researchers, and with a robust national coordination, systematic data collection over time, training, discipline, we should make sure every person gets the right care they need. Now, timing is important. Acting soon is always better. Acting soon will avoid consequences that will last for generations. Chronic PTSD has its course. It's always started kind of, low and manageable, and over time it can complicate itself. So acting now will address chronic PTSD, depression, suicide, substance use, family breakdowns. And as I said, knowledge exists, research exists. There is a good leadership coming out of the Ministry of Health. What we need now is will to continue, consistency, coordination, partnerships, to build something which is different indeed, bold, scalable, resilient, kind of a national system, and you will hear from Michal about those plans, that will build on real-time data, connecting hospitals, clinics, researchers, and communities. Imagine a national trauma registry, as you will hear from Michal, tracking what is needed online, on time, and which treatment may work better for whom and under which conditions. Imagine training thousands of professionals in evidence-based trauma interventions, so that no matter where you live, whether it's in Sderot or Shlomi, wherever, you can receive care which truly fits your needs. It's possible. Israel is indeed able and willing to build a sustainable system that ensures that no Israeli faces trauma alone. Together, we can turn this moment of national pain and need into a legacy of national strength. Thank you. Any question?
Come in. I'll run over there right after.
Thank you, Yuval. Thank you for the talk and for all the work you've done for healing individuals and society. My question is there anything that can be done in terms of PTSD, in terms of preventing it? Because as horrific as October 7th has been, I hope I'm wrong, and it's the last time Israel has to face something like this, but history shows that perhaps not. And
Right.
what can be done on an individual level and on a societal level to try to, without creating an ongoing sense of dread, but of
So that's
pre-need resilience.
Yeah, no, that's, Bruce, an excellent question. And believe me, militaries around the world, DOD, the defense, the IDF in Israel, everybody is asking himself what can be done previously to the experience of trauma in order to reduce, the risk for developing PTSD. And since you are a doctor and a researcher, there are some animal studies that have shown that prophylaxis can be used in order to reduce arousal, for example, and to make people perhaps more ready for the overwhelming pressure from the outside. And I'm not familiar with something that is really scalable. I mean, taking a nation and prepare it, to future events. But in small military units, for example, I remember myself training, since I became kind of an expert in captivity after my work among Israeli POWs. They asked me to prepare, elite unit members to face captivity when and if. And simulation is always, preparing us for the best. In general, those who cope with past trauma better are more inoculated for future trauma. However, you never know, right? So those who coped with trauma negatively or inefficiently can be more vulnerable to future trauma. So it's kind of a mix, and the answer is, I don't know.
There's a lot of speculation about psychedelic drugs for PTSD, which has not been approved by the FDA in the US.
You asked about psychedelics? I didn't hear.
Yeah, psychedelic.
Good. Yeah.
And there are a lot of stories that the people at Nova, for example, who were taking psychedelic, they survived much better than the others. Is Israel in the forefront of potentially approving this type of drugs?
So thank you for this question. First of all, Israel is really a leading site in psychedelic research. In very good hospitals in Israel, there is research on the effect of psilocybin, MDMA, and great data is really coming out of Israel. So the answer is that psychedelics may be promising agents, and it's important because current drugs, current medication for PTSD has a very low, moderate to low kind of effect size. So more and better drugs are needed, but research should be done carefully. You cannot really throw MDMA in the public or psilocybin. Now, about Nova, it's very, very interesting. I mean, data is showing that those who, so this was a big party, most or many of the people took drugs, different drugs, and there are some studies on that. Those who used, for example, marijuana in the early hours of the morning on October 7 did poorly as compared to people who were on MDMA. No, MDMA is actually
Ecstasy. It's ecstasy.
Psilocybin is a mushroom. So not all drugs are effective. Alcohol also contributed to doing poorly, relatively poor emotionally, during the early hours morning when people fled and had to run, long distance in order to save their lives. So those on MDMA did better. Now, why? Mechanism is not really clear, but it's a promising sign about perhaps the effect of this drug.
The reason why they actually did better is because the mechanism of action with marijuana and alcohol, those are both drugs that are disinhibiting, versus psilocybin and MDMA actually turn down the amygdala, which is the area of the brain that's responsible for responding to fear. So I actually specialize in psychedelic medicine.
And boosting the serotonin system. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. So I know that there was most of the research has been done pre-October 7th with treatment of MDMA, specifically with PTSD, and through the organization of MAPS, which has done a phenomenal job in Israel. So I'm just curious if MAPS is continuing, or if you can share any information about the MAPS research post-October 7th.
So my lab is not directly involved in that, so I'm not sure I have kind of a good answer, but I think FDA didn't approve MDMA lately for PTSD, and for good reasons, because the reports that were submitted to the FDA were not great, unfortunately. So better research is needed. We need to be. I agree that there is a sense of urgency, but we need to be pretty conservative when we do. Exactly. Wow, I didn't expect that we will become a scientific conference here. Thank you for that. Makes my life better. Any other question or sorry?
We're pressed in time, so we're going to use the time for Michal to present, and then we'll open it up for as many minutes we have left. Thank you so much for your questions. Thank you, Yuval Neria.
So going after Moshe and Yuval is a very hard act to follow, so hopefully I can do it. And I have the... אורי, איפה ה-PowerPoint שלי? Okay, we'll open the PowerPoint. It's there. Okay, it's just, I'm not seeing it. That side. It's just important to know where to look for it. Okay, I'm all set. So first, thank you so much. Wow, what a room, and what a wonderful presentation by all our amazing colleagues and friends and great people on the Zoom. Thank you so much. And I want now to just take a few minutes to also talk about what we are doing here at MJB in partnership with the Ministry of Health, in partnership with JDC, to launch the National October 7 Registry that will allow us to monitor and treat and direct our effort in the most effective way. So everyone in this room agree that we are now facing the largest mental health crisis in its history. I don't need to read the numbers. I think many of you have seen them. Maybe I'll acknowledge a few. 1,152 people who were murdered, 978 civilians who were killed, and nearly 20,000 people who were injured. And the psychological wounds are far deeper and far wider. And these numbers don't just represent the past, they shape Israel's future. The mental health needs we see today will define the country for decades, and we just heard it from everyone. We have entire communities who are living now with trauma. We have the people, the Nova survivors, the soldiers, the reservists, the families who lost their loved one, evacuees from the north and the south who forced to leave their homes and now experience financial burden, and of course the first responders and the clinicians, the therapists and the social workers are themselves deeply affected. So in order to deal with the national trauma, we needed a national response. And in order to provide the right treatment to the right people at the right time, we need to improve our access to evidence, data, and system. And this is why we are very happy to report that recently we launched the October 7 registry. We have been working on it now for a few months. And of course, the main reason is that our resources are limited and we need to use our resources to the most efficient way. And this is why we launched the registry, which I will explain in a minute what it's going to do. And the main reason is to understand who is hurting, reach people with the right care, and improve the services continuously. So we're basically going to turn data into healing, and the registry will help us assist to provide, to build a mental health system to be more proactive, data-informed, and more efficient. And it's really have two parts. It's have the part that is taking a population level data, that use of administrative data that bring together data from the different ministries that we are working on. That's all being done by the Census Bureau of Statistics. So all the relevant data, they are now for several months, like gathering all the relevant, but it's administrative data, right? It's records from the government ministries, it's employment record, it's education record, it's achievement, it's impact on divorce and separation. It's all kind of like administrative big data record that will be collected for the entire population, data lake. We will refer to it as a data lake, big data lake on the full population of Israel. And in addition to that, we are building a cohort that will be sampled from this population level data of 20,000 households that we will be following over time now, and interview them for their subjective well-being, for their subjective feelings, for their subjective experience every year for believe many years. We follow to be able to identify their experience and to help then build the right resources and the right services. It's a partnership with 8 government ministries, of course, leading by Ministry of Health and Ministry of Welfare, working very closely with Gilad. It's being led by Michal Aron, who is our, Dr. Michal Aron, who is, say hi, who is our, heading the health policy team, and in partnership with Professor Yuval Neria, who is our Chief Mental Health Officer, as I like to call him. And it's a true partnership. So Colombia and many of the teams in Colombia are also involved, working very closely with us. And of course, it's with JDC, our partner, and many other stakeholders. We are going to tackle many aspects of life and trying to really make it very broad. You can see here a few: trauma, PTSD, risk, dropout from school, academic achievement, family, income, many aspects to really get a full picture of the situation. And we also, while we're going to study the entire population, we're also going to focus on the different degree of exposure. So whether if it's a first degree, like a Nova survivor or the hostages and their families, or second degree, which is the people who were evacuees, or third degree, which is people that are at risk. But we are going to study the entire population and study more in depth these people that are at a higher risk. So I feel the road to recovery of the Israeli society must rely on data, evidence, and partnerships, which is what we are seeing now in this room. So thank you so much. And I will have Gilad say a few words as our key partner in this.
We're almost out of time, so I'll just say a few words. I think we're dealing with a huge, chaotic, traumatic event. And the way to deal with a huge, chaotic, traumatic event is to have a good vision of where we want to go to and how we're going to deal with it. Because that's the challenge of moving from developing post-traumatic stress disorder as a nation to moving into post-traumatic growth. And the issue of putting the right seeds for post-traumatic growth, I think, is our mission. And by having the right vision and the right direction, that's the way to achieve the post-traumatic growth. And I'll say in the first week of the war, two important things happened besides all the solutions we had to invent for the moment. One thing was that we understood that it's not an issue of how the ministry reacts only, but it's an issue of how communities react. And we need to collaborate to communities. And that was the first seeds of our collaboration with JDC in making our initiative of working within communities and municipalities and providing tools for municipalities for resilience and promoting health in general. And the second most important thing that happened in the first week was that Moshe called me to his room and said, we need to start working on the National Mental Health Initiative. Although you're very overoccupied with all the solutions now, you must take a team and let them start work. And that was the seeds, the first seeds for the National Mental Health Initiative, which enabled us eventually to make this growth of our mental health system in order to be able to deal with what's needed now and what will be needed in the future. And the ability to collaborate with MJB in order to make the data and to collaborate with good friends here in the United States in order to be able to see that what we're doing is accurate and what we're doing is evidence-based. This is really what promotes the ability to see hope in front of us and to see how we're leading our country to growth and not only to heal. So thank you.
Thanks everyone for coming. And you can see, we are honestly so committed to this, and we believe this is the most important work right now need to be done in Israel. And we love the partnership in this room and the vibe. And thank you for the opportunity.